Hello everyone and welcome to Saturn Returns with me, Caggie Dunlop. This is a podcast that aims to bring clarity during transitional times where there can be confusion and doubt. Today I'm joined by Charlie Morley, who has spent the last 15 years writing books and learning about lucid dreaming. It's a subject that I wanted to speak about because I'm really fascinated by dreams and I feel like we don't give them enough attention because they are actually, if you think about it, completely bizarre and hold so much wisdom. And Charlie in this episode really unpacks how we can use our dreams and work with our dreams as a way of interacting with the subconscious. Lucid dreaming is essentially the experience of achieving conscious awareness of dreaming whilst you are still asleep. And in Charlie's practice, you can actually actively then go into the dream and participate or manipulate the unfolding of things. They are most common during rapid eye movement, REM sleep, and it's a period of very deep sleep. But Charlie gets into it in this episode, and it's really interesting because we can actually use this as an amazing tool for healing, and especially from his work and research in the realms of trauma. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I absolutely found it fascinating. I loved having Charlie on, and I'm so glad that he came on the podcast, and I hope you guys take something away from it and it starts your dream journey. Charlie, welcome to the Saturn Returns podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you today about a subject that I'm very fascinated by, but I don't know a huge amount about. So for the audience that doesn't know, would you be able to introduce who you are and what you do and how you got into this work?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And we're going to talk about lucid dreaming. So a lucid dream is a dream where you know that you're dreaming as the dream is happening, but you stay asleep. Mm-hmm. So if you ever had a dream where you're completely sound asleep, but in the dream, oh wow, this is a dream, and then you can choose what to do. You can change the narrative, you can fly through the sky. In fact, a lot of people, their first experience of lucid dreaming might be a nightmare. If you've ever had a nightmare where in the nightmare you go, I've got to wake up, that was actually a lucid dream too. Yeah. Because by saying I've got to wake up, you would indirectly acknowledge I'm asleep. Mm-hmm. And actually your first little takeaway is if you ever have that again, where you wake up in a nightmare, where you become conscious in a nightmare, don't wake up. Because every time you wake yourself from a nightmare, it's like a therapy session cut short. And your brain, because it loves you, not because it's trying to punish you, but because it loves you, it will give you that nightmare again and again and again until it's integrated, until the therapy session is complete. Anyway, so that's a lucid dream. And what I do is I've spent the last 15 years writing books about lucid dreaming and sleep and trauma-affected sleep. And I go around giving workshops and retreats and talks about lucid dreaming and sleep.
And how did you get into that sort of, because it's quite a niche subject. Yeah. Obviously, it's not a niche subject in that we all sleep. We know how foundational that is for our health and overall well-being, and we all dream. And actually, when I've been sort of researching you and your work, you realize what a weird and fascinating concept just dreaming is in itself. Yet we just kind of like, oh yeah, I had that dream about this, and don't really know how to interact with the unconscious or the subconscious in that way. So what led you into exploring this particular field?
So from really young, I was always into dreams. Like I remember telling my mum my dreams from very young, like in the car on the way to school and stuff like that. And sometimes I just make it up. I'd just say stuff that wasn't real, and other times I would say stuff that I had dreamt. So I remember that from an early age. And then the first kind of solid memory I have that's been confirmed by my family is when I was 11, for my 12th birthday, I asked for this thing called a Nova Dreamer, which is like this, you can buy them now, not with the same brand, but an electronic sleep mask that you wear when you sleep, and it's got little sensors that recognize rapid eye movement from your eyelids. And when it sees the rapid eye movement, it flashes these red lights, which are bright enough to permeate your eyelids and go into your dream, but not bright enough to wake you up. And I remember reading about this in the gadget section of the Sunday Times newspaper. It's like one of those Sunday afternoons, and they had this little gadget book full of stuff like mail order stuff, and that was in there. And I remember taking it to my dad and going, Dad, there's this mask that gives you those dreams that I have. I didn't know they were called lucid dreams, but I knew from the description that was what I was having. And, it was like $300, so I never got it. But that was the first time that I knew I acknowledged lucid dreaming, and I wanted more of them. And then when I was 15, then I know for sure. I just started getting interested in consciousness and the mind, and Buddhism looked quite cool, but there were all these rules, so I wasn't quite into that. Psychedelics looked easier, so that became something I was interested in. And then these books about lucid dreaming. So I started reading them and then being able to consciously induce the lucid dream state. And the lucid dream is so real. You know, it's like you gain access to this huge virtual reality simulation of your own psychology. Mm-hmm. And at a 15, 16-year-old, when you gain access to this huge virtual reality world where there are no rules of society to live by, I got up to, you know, all sorts of mischief, mainly skateboarding and sex, which as a 15-year-old were my two kind of major priorities, one of which I was doing a lot of, the other not so much.
So I don't need to delve much further to guess which one was which. But
I got really good at skateboarding though. And now there's all these studies on neuroplasticity by practicing sports in lucid dreams. So maybe I got good at that.
Because I have heard about this, and I think it was from you, and I heard it somewhere else, that actually people that were practicing like fitness or something in their lucid dreams, it actually increased their physical fitness whilst they weren't actually doing it when they were conscious.
There's actually loads of studies on that. That's one of the most well-researched scientific aspects of lucid dreaming, because it's very easy to quantify. You basically see how many squats someone can do in the waking state, like what's their personal best on squats or press-ups. Then you teach them lucid dreaming over a series of weeks, and then you get them to have lucid dreams, and you put them into the lab, and you know, make sure that they're in the lucid dream state. In the lucid dream, they practice the athletic discipline, whether it's squats or press-ups, or I was part of a study where you had to practice this certain martial arts kick sequence. And then in the waking state, they test you again. And you can see very clearly, do you get better at squats or do you get better at martial arts? In the study I was in, 81.3% of the practitioners got better at martial arts by training in the lucid dream, which is nuts.
That's nuts.
Like if that was 18%, I'd still be sharing that as a cool fact. But 81.3%, that's insane.
But how do people actually get... So you touched on at the beginning what lucid dreaming is. And I feel like I've had them. I'm sure a lot of people listening do as well. But how do you actively, firstly, know, beyond knowing that you're in a lucid dream, then kind of control or get involved with what's happening in the unconscious?
Sure. So the first thing to know is that lucid dreaming comes factory installed. So we've got two studies from Harvard, one from Lincoln University in the UK actually, that has confirmed that children ages 6 to 16 have lucid dreams frequently. Not every child every night, but it seems to be an inbuilt capacity.
More than adults?
Oh, way more than adults.
Interesting.
Lucid dream frequency in adults drops off the radar. In fact, it drops off pretty much when people go into full-time education, which is a whole other...
We can open that kind of one.
You know, that's very interesting to think about. You know, there's this quote from Picasso. He said, every child is born an artist. The adult's job is to remember how. And I think the same with lucid dreaming. This comes factory installed. Now, I'd say about like 1 in 100 adults, so this is very unscientific, but just from 15 years of doing this, I think about 1 in 100 people I meet are natural lucid dreamers. For some reason, they carried that capacity from childhood into adulthood. But for most people, the other 99 out of 100, they need to relearn how to do it. And that's my job. And it is a learnable skill.
So 6 to 16, so basically children are more inclined to have lucid dreaming. But does that mean that they're just having dreams where they're aware that they're dreaming, or they're able to actively kind of participate in what's happening?
Yeah, active participation.
Oh, interesting.
And a lot of it comes from nightmares. So I found that with those 1 in 100 people who seem to be natural lucid dreamers in adulthood, almost all of them talk about childhood nightmares, and that they were using their lucid dream ability to be able to change the outcome of those nightmares. So it seems to be that by harnessing that inbuilt faculty of lucid dreaming, if you have nightmares, that kind of expedites the process and leads it to be kind of more hardwired into the brain, I think.
Well, you touched on it being connected with trauma and a form of therapy. Can you expand on that a little bit? Yeah.
So, I mean, lucid dreams in and of themselves are neutral events. They are simply any dream where you know that you're dreaming as the dream is happening. However, one of the most powerful benefits of lucid dreaming is for treatment of nightmares and more recently post-traumatic stress disorder. So using lucid dreaming to treat nightmares has been scientifically studied about as much as the sports stuff. The two big things around lucid dreaming are sports science and nightmare integration.
When you say nightmare integration, do you mean as in if someone's having horrific nightmares all the time, that you use lucid dreaming to stop those nightmares from happening.
Yeah, so you train people to become lucid. A lot of people actually having nightmares will naturally become lucid because fear boosts our awareness. So about a third of all spontaneous lucid dreams begin as nightmares because nightmares kind of boost our fear. So we're more likely to go, oh, wait, zombies don't exist. Bam, I'm dreaming. Or I'm not back in that traumatic event. I must be dreaming.
Yeah, well, I guess it kind of makes you get those feelings as if it's happening, and then you're like, is this actually happening or is this a dream? Because I often get that when I don't know whether it's a dream or not, and I'm sort of wanting to wake up, and then I think I wake up, but then I'm also still in a dream.
Oh, false awakening, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's called the pre-lucid state, where you're starting to like critically question the dream, like, wait, this might be a dream, but you're not, you're just one step away from being fully lucid, where, whoa, this is a dream. My body's asleep in bed, I'm in a huge three-dimensional projection of my mind, and I'm safe. And that's the first thing that happens with nightmare sufferers, is the first thing to do is teach them lucid dreaming.
But how? How do you teach them to know that it is actually a dream?
I mean, that's my job. It's a learnable skill. So meditations before bed, self-hypnosis techniques as you fall asleep, yoga nidra during the day, state checking, waking up at certain points of the night, then dropping back into periods where you're most likely to have certain REM.
Oh, wow. So it's very specific.
Yeah, very specific techniques that you do. Auto-suggestion techniques done in the last 2 hours of the sleep cycle.
What's that mean?
Basically a posh word for self-hypnosis techniques. Like all this stuff, like lucid dreaming is an old craft, right? You find it in Tibetan Buddhism, at least 1,000 years they've been practicing it. In the Toltec Mexica tradition of ancient Mexico, again, it goes back about 1,000 years. But it's only recently been in the last 40 or 50 years that Western science has caught up. And they've developed a series of techniques, which they've given different names to, but actually you find them in all the ancient traditions. And they're ways of inducing lucid dreams at will. So it is a learnable skill.
Because you talked about, is it dream yoga?
Yeah.
What does that...
Funny name, isn't it? Dream yoga.
But I was fascinated by that. What does that actually entail?
Dream yoga is a direct translation of a Tibetan term, Milam Naljor. So Milam means dream, and Naljor is translated as yoga, but actually it means natural state, which I think is kind of a cool definition of yoga as well. But anyway, so Milam Naljor is dream yoga. And dream yoga is a series of practices found in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition that have lucid dream training at their foundation. They also include what in the West would refer to as conscious sleeping, a little bit similar to like the yoga nidra practices in the Hindu tradition, and something called special dream body practice, which in the West we call astral projection, like an outer body experience.
Would you be able to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so for this, my ex-wife actually is the expert on this, Jade Shaw. She teaches astral projection. But in her absence, a lucid dream is you're inside your own psychology, right? You're inside your own mind. A genuine outer body experience, part of your consciousness is dislocating from the physical body and experiencing either an energy duplicate of reality or in some cases actual reality. Now, lucid dreaming is like hard science. It's been like scientifically verified for almost 50 years now. Outer body experiences, astral projection, no, science still hasn't caught up with that. I thought they were bullshit, to be honest.
Well, astral sort of projection
I thought astral projection was just people who were having really intense lucid dreams and just thinking, oh, but I was flying, so I must have been really flying in real life. You know, if I have a lucid dream tonight, and because this has been my daytime experience, I might have a lucid dream I'm in this room. And then because I'm lucid, oh, cool, I'm going to fly down the high street to Ladbroke Grove. That doesn't mean I'm astrally projecting. It means I'm having a lucid dream about flying down Ladbroke Grove. So I'd always thought that, oh, these people, they're just kind of misinterpreting what the lucid dream is. So when I was writing my first book, which is like 10 years ago, I went to a astral projection workshop, mainly to kind of basically prove I was right. And I was kind of sparring with the guy online before over email. I think it's probably just a misinterpretation of the lucidity state, blah, blah, blah. So I had like zero faith going in. I thought this was all bullshit. And I go to this workshop, and at midday, so the middle of the day, before lunchtime, I wasn't tired. I wasn't in a dream state. I wasn't in a hypnosis state. I definitely hadn't fallen for some sort of like group hypnosis that this teacher could bring me into this state. I thought it was bullshit. But we sat around in a circle in his house, actually, not dissimilar to a setup here in a kind of an L-shaped sofa like that. And he did a technique. And he said, this technique won't give you an out-of-body experience. We're just practicing for what you'll do tonight as you fall asleep to allow you to exit your body. And we're sitting there and we do this technique. And at the end of the technique, where you eject your consciousness out of your body, everything in me, it's so weird. Everything that is me left my body by about 2 inches. Like, not a lot, but it just went, like, it had a ripping sound, like, and we were sitting in a circle, and even my eyesight, because I could now see over the guy's head who was in front of me. So, like, my vision went up by 2 inches too, and boom, and then came back in with a jolt, and I freak. I genuinely thought he'd put something in my tea. I thought, oh shit, it's because I've been a bit rude to him online. He wants to like give, I'll teach him a lesson. So I'm in his kitchen and I'm like, whoa, I need to get out of here. This is nuts, man. This is nuts. And he comes in, he asks me, I'm like, dude, I don't know what's happening here. This isn't cool. I was like really panicking. And then I just had to accept, like, it wasn't anything in the tea. I'd had an out of body experience with my eyes open.
And also you went into it quite critically.
Completely skeptical, yeah.
And
so I stayed for the rest of the workshop and then had another one at night. Because if that was in the day, if you do it in the hypnagogic state as you're falling asleep, where your consciousness is already, you know, that your eyes are closed, you get the nodding dog thing. Yeah. You're on the boundary.
That sort of like halfway point to sleep.
So that boundary state is a state where like almost the glue that sticks your energy body to your physical body becomes a bit looser. So that's the state where you'll do the technique you taught me in the day.
Which was what?
It's kind of a long technique to describe, but it's basically you kind of move energy up and down your body, faster,
You're sort of launching it then.
Yes, and you kind of launch out the top of your head, or you imagine launching out the top of your head.
Wow.
But when I first did it, it worked. And
do you think the fact that you'd done all this work around lucid dreaming helped?
Maybe. And maybe some of the Buddhist practices around the energy body and stuff like that, maybe I had like kind of a looseness in my subtle body or an awareness of the subtle body that helped. But anyway, long story short, I then had to go back and rewrite the chapter on out-of-body experiences in my first book, referencing this and going like, look, guys, I don't know how this works. And science still hasn't backed it up. But I've had like, at that time, I'd had, I don't know, like 500 intentional lucid dreams. So I knew what a lucid dream was. Mm-hmm. And those experiences were not lucid dreams. Don't know what they were, but they were not lucid dreams.
And how does sort of psychedelics play into this stuff? Because is that a way that people can access those sort of realms or that separation in a different capacity, or is it something?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of crossover between the kind of movement in psychedelic therapy and lucid dreaming. A lot of the same benefits. Working with post-traumatic stress disorder. Actually, we didn't kind of go into that, but yeah, working with post-traumatic stress disorder and healing of childhood trauma and working with depression, all of the things that, you know, ketamine-assisted therapy and psilocybin-assisted therapy are now working with. Lucid dreaming is brilliant for that too. And actually, I've done a few workshops for the Psychedelic Society to help prepare people for the psychedelic journey. Mm-hmm. Because no one knows the difference between hallucination and reality better than the lucid dreamer. Our entire craft is based on knowing the difference. So if you're about to take something that's going to make you have big hallucinations, training in lucid dreaming is a really good grounding practice. Mm-hmm. Because if you hear about people having bad trips, whatever that means,
it's just that they don't know
it's often that they think it's real. Yeah. They think there's actually a demon there, rather than, no, the psychedelic is creating a projection of my own trauma into this form of what seems very much like a demon. Mm-hmm. And that externalization is what leads to these bad trips. So lucid dreaming is a great preparation for that.
Which and is probably quite important because it's obviously become quite a popular thing, psychedelics.
Yeah.
And for people to actually have the preparation, because I do fear that people are just going into it without any kind of grounding or doing any form of therapy, and it's no joke.
Yeah. And of course, I prefer lucid dreaming. I think, you know, it's free, it's non-addictive, it's non-invasive, you can't overdose on it, but it does take a while.
Yeah,
you know, if you give me an hour with 100 people to teach them lucid dreaming, that night, I don't know, maybe 30 of them might have a lucid dream experience, or 10 of them that night and 30 of them within the next week might have a lucid dream experience.
I think that's pretty good, though.
Pretty good, but if you give me 100 people and I give all 100 people a dose of psilocybin, within 1 hour, 100 people will have an experience.
Yeah, that's true.
So I absolutely see the great benefit of working with psychedelics with a qualified therapist, but I think for kind of long-term use, lucid dreaming is great because you do it by yourself. It's free. You can do it every night if you want.
And we didn't really get into the sort of trauma element. So could we kind of touch on that a bit more?
Yeah. So loads of studies on using lucid dreaming to treat nightmares. You train people to become lucid in their nightmares, and then either they can first of all wake up, which is okay, but it's not long term. Secondly, you teach them to become lucid and to stay in the nightmare. To know, oh, I'm not really back in the car crash. I'm simply dreaming I'm back in the car crash. This is all internal therapy session. In the same way as my therapist might ask me, tell me what happened in the car crash. My mind is showing me what happened as a way to integrate. And if I can stay in this dream and witness it, the integration will be complete. So, ways of working with nightmares. However, there had never been a trial to see, could lucid dreaming treat not only nightmares, but the waking state symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder? Symptoms such as panic attacks, anxiety, depression, flashbacks.
And also, you've talked about how the nightmares are the ones that are usually not only repeated but also lucid dreams.
They can be, yeah.
What is the nightmare a demonstration of that we aren't acknowledging in the sort of Western world enough? If that makes sense.
A nightmare is a dream that's shouting. A nightmare is a dream that is drawing your attention to a wounded part of the psyche. Exactly the same as pain works.
Yeah.
When I walk past something and I hit my elbow, the pain is sending a message to my brain saying, you've wounded your elbow. And now I can apply healing techniques like rubbing it or, applying a plaster or something. The nightmare is doing the same thing. It's drawing our attention to a wounded part of the psyche. And the nightmare itself is a manifestation of healing. So let's say I cut my elbow. What would happen? Blood would coagulate and a scab would form. What is a scab? It's a protective layer that forms over the wound to allow healing to occur beneath the surface. That is exactly the definition of a nightmare. It's a manifestation of healing that creates a protective barrier over the wounded psyche to allow healing to occur beneath the surface. And yet we try and get rid of them. We use nightmare as a pejorative term. My journey here today, I could have walked in and go, oh, bloody nightmare journey. And yet nightmares are so good. So first of all, we need to completely reframe what nightmares are.
That nightmares are healing.
So healing. In almost all cases, nightmares are trying to help.
But I think because we don't have the language or understanding of them, and also they're usually metaphorical, that it's hard to kind of create that dialogue, so to speak, between your waking state and the nightmare.
Yes.
Because I have, recurring dreams or nightmares that I know are trying to tell me something, but I haven't got the tools to unpack them. And they've kind of gone on for years and they're almost like identical, and I have them every week.
That's like such a good lead in for lucid dreaming. The tool you need is lucid dreaming.
And I do know, I have that thing where I'm on the precipice of lucid dreaming and I'm like, I think this is a dream. I think this
if you can get lucid in those nightmares, especially if they're recurring one lucid dream, the nightmares will stop. I mean, it's very, very direct. We have hard science on this. You talked about the, dialoguing or being able to communicate. The lucid dream is a direct dialogue with your unconscious mind. Mm-hmm. If every dream or nightmare we have is like a letter written by the unconscious mind to us, trying to give us information or inform us of stuff. Sometimes the letter's actually just like, this happened today. It's not always greatly meaningful. If we can get lucid in our dream, it's like meeting the letter writer. It's as if we walk into the office when the dreaming mind's writing the letter and they're like, dude, I was just writing to you. Yeah. But now you're here.
I've written to you 50,000 times.
Exactly. But now you're here. Let's talk. Imagine that. Finally, after writing all these, to be honest, unanswered letters, because we don't even read them most of the time. Reading would be remembering the dream.
Oh, well, also, like you say, it's like, oh, that was horrible.
Yeah.
You wake up, because I often, and to kind of just share, because I don't have any problem with being honest about this stuff, but my one is always around drinking. So I used to drink a lot when I was in my early 20s, and then I guess struggled with it a bit, and then stopped drinking and went sober for a while. And now I kind of use the term sober curious. Like, I can drink a little bit every so often, but generally speaking, it doesn't agree with me. But I get these dreams that I kind of communicate it that it's my subconscious just giving me a bit of a warning. And the repeating thing will be that I'm in a situation where I suddenly wake up, but I'm in the dream, and I don't know what's happened, and I've basically made a choice to drink, and it's gone really wrong, and I've like ruined my whole life, and maybe I've woken up in a different country, and it's quite traumatizing, to be honest, because when I wake up, I call it like a phantom hangover. Like, I'm like, did I do that? Did those things happen? And for at least like the morning, I will feel a bit like, oh my God, did that happen? And I have them probably every week, and it's basically the same. Obviously the details are different, but it's exactly the same kind of formula. And I've had them for years and years and years. And whilst it's useful to a degree, because I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to kind of have that feeling of being out of control. I want to be able to work with those nightmares to have a deeper understanding of what's trying to heal or come through.
Can I offer some unsolicited advice?
100%.
Just checking. Okay. So first thing I'd say is write those nightmares down. So we got really good study from, I think it was Swansea University. They found that every time you have a dream, even if you don't remember it, you wake up with the corresponding neurochemicals of that dream still in the body. So let's say you've been having a really anxious dream. You know, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you just feel a bit off.
Yeah. And you don't even necessarily know why.
Yeah, it's probably you've had an anxiety dream, which you've forgotten or haven't remembered. But the anxiety chemicals are still in the bloodstream. They're still floating through the body. So they did a study where, first of all, they trained people to remember their dreams, which is the first step of lucid dreaming. Then they got them to either keep a dream diary, write down their dreams, or speak their dreams out loud to their partner. Poor partner, some people might think. And they found that people who did that, the act of writing down the dream or speaking the dream out loud, in their words, discharged the underlying emotional energy of the dream from the body, leading to increased levels of mental well-being. So basically, writing down your dreams is good for you because it kind of flushes out that stuff, especially writing down your nightmares. Because I know that feeling where the nightmare hangs around till like lunchtime. You're like, oh, it's still here, that memory. Writing it down, drawing a picture of it, speaking it out loud to a trusted friend or therapist, that's a really good first step.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is lucid dreaming. Like if you can get lucid in one of those nightmares, and actually you could become lucid and say, what do you represent? Or what do I need to integrate this nightmare? It sounds so simple that you could do that, but you literally can. And if you do that, it's so crazy how the dream responds. Sometimes like a voice from God. It's like an intercom system in your voice, and it'll say like, you need to do this, or like, there's a problem from your childhood. You're like, who said that? This is nuts. Or in other terms, a dream character will come up to you, some sort of personification of the trauma or what it is, and they'll literally give you advice. They will tell you what you need to do. And whatever appears, I say hug them. You know, what could be more symbolic of love and acceptance than the hug? So if ever you're in a nightmare or a scary dream, you do become lucid, yes, you could ask what you represent, but probably even before you ask that, just hug everything. Because what is a nightmare? It's a wounded part of our psyche, and where do wounds come from? Lack of love. The best way to heal our internal wounds is love. So if we can like hug everything in the psyche.
Yeah, because I think of if they do induce a feeling of shame or guilt, naturally as we do, we want to kind of suppress that and bury it down, not open it up more. So I have heard that technique that also, you know, writing a sort of dream journal, that it's a way as well of opening up the dialogue. Even if you haven't mastered lucid dreaming, you're still going to the subconscious, oh, I'm ready for the next part, the next chapter.
Yeah. So like I did script writing, right, at uni. That was my like thing, like writing plays. And I think there's an internal part of my mind, the dreamer, I call it with a big D, that every night it's writing these amazing plays, these amazing like Hollywood movies, right? And when we don't write down the movie, it's as if there's no one in the audience. And that script writer, think how like demoralizing that must be for the internal script writer. When you start writing down your dreams, it's at least like someone's reviewing the play. It's like, oh, someone was in the audience last night. They were listening. And a lucid dream is like that audience member getting up on stage. It then becomes like an interactive dance here. So it's such a good step if you can do that. And also just a great window into your mind. People, myself included, spend a lot of money each week going to a therapist and saying, what's going on in here, doc?
Yeah,
you want to know what's going on there? Look at your dreams. You know, every night your dreaming mind is reflecting the internal environment of your psyche. You want to know what's going on in there? Look at your mind. You know, who are you secretly in love with? What childhood traumas are still getting you down? What conversation that you had 2 weeks ago, which you thought was totally cool, do you keep coming up in your dreams because it wasn't cool? There was something there that actually was really triggering. All of that information is in the dreams, but we do need to remember them and write them down.
Because we can't hide from ourselves and tell ourselves.
You can't hide from your dreams. They're very, very honest.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was premonitions in dreams. So that's something that I've had my whole life, but they're nothing very exciting. So that I'll have like a dream about something, and then the next day someone will say the exact thing that they said in my dream, and then suddenly I'm like, oh my God. or just little things will kind of happen, but it's nothing that's like I said, it's not big world events or anything like that. What's your understanding of that? Because obviously that ties into the sort of astral travel and the sort of concept of time, because it's like, okay, it feels like in our dreams we have the capacity to pierce through time. What is your sort of take on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's necessarily linked to the astral projection thing, but it's definitely linked to time. I think there are way more people who are having prophetic dreams of the future, than know it, because they're not writing down their dreams and not remembering their dreams. In the last 15 years of doing this, I've seen so many people, trusted people, no way they're trying to impress me, no way they're trying to get anything from it, who have shown me valid prophetic dreams. And on these lucid dreaming retreats we run, I'm with them for 4 days. So I've seen it written down, and then it happens. I'm like, whoa, that one was for real. So how they happen, I don't know. Why they happen, I don't know. But I know they do happen. You know, Carl Jung was asked about this. He had a really interesting theory on this. He said it's less premonition and more preparation. He described the unconscious mind taking in so much data that the unconscious mind isn't taking in, that it has, he didn't use this term, but I'll use it on his behalf, it can create almost an algorithm of future possibility based on these huge amounts of data, which most of the time it gets wrong, but some of the time it does get right. And he used an example of, let's say tonight you have a dream that 2 close friends of yours get married in 1 year from now. And then, 6 months from now, you hear they're getting engaged, and 1 year later they get married. You think, whoa, that's a prophetic dream. That's amazing. Was I like connected to their mind streams? What was it? He would say, although your conscious mind didn't notice it, your unconscious mind noticed that there was a shared touch between those 2 friends. That maybe on the WhatsApp group, they were connecting more than usual. All these little details that your unconscious mind is picking up, your conscious mind isn't, put together into a possibility of, they'd actually be quite a good couple. They're both similar age. They both just have a relationship. They both want to get married. Maybe. So the dream will present you with this maybe. And sometimes that maybe comes true. So he would say that it's less about psychic capacity and more about the huge capacity of the unconscious mind to make predictions about future events. And that's pretty cool, because we know from like hypnosis studies in fMRI scanners, you get people in hypnosis in a brain scanner. By the way, hypnosis is real now. That old thing in the 80s of like stage hypnosis, they're all making it up. No. Hypnosis has now been neuroscientifically demonstrated. And the studies they did, I mean, they did one where they put someone into a brain scanner and then they basically hurt them. They applied pain to the arm, but they had been hypnotized to feel that there was the arm was completely numb. And not only did they not respond to the pain, but their brain wasn't registering the pain. So we know hypnosis is real now. That's like the cards are in for that. And we also know through hypnosis that, like, if in a few months' time I was put in a hypnotic trance, I would be able to tell you exactly the position of all of these paintings on your wall, exactly what you're wearing, what my friend here is wearing, even though consciously I would have forgotten, right? Yeah. Because the unconscious is this huge
it's picking up on
hard
all this
drive.
data. Yeah.
So that's one thing, one possibility of prophetic dreams. I mean, I asked a Buddhist Lama about this once, and I thought he didn't understand the question. So I was asking about like deja vu and prophetic dreams and stuff, and I went, like where it feels like you've been in one time, and he just looked at me and went, time? Like as if you still think time works? Dude, I don't know where to begin. And I thought, wow, yeah, I'm really out of my depth here, so who knows?
I love that.
Oh, sorry, I keep on wanting to mention the trauma study, and
yeah,
I keep on
avoiding.
No, I just keep getting. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I'm avoiding the trauma thing. We just keep on getting excited, and I keep talking about other things. So, loads of science on the nightmare stuff. That's been done, but could we use it to treat waking state PTSD? Yeah. Kind of a crazy idea, but this science organization in America called the Institute of Noetic Sciences wanted to see if we could do it. So part of this study, we get a group of 55 people, all of whom have chronic PTSD. To get onto the study, you have to have chronic or treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder. I've done a lot of work with British military veterans and the Ministry of Defense, actually, on helping people with traumatized sleep patterns through lucid dreaming, but also through breath work and deep relaxation and stuff like that. But I've never worked with a group where we got 100% PTSD. So the night before the study, the funder sent me a WhatsApp message saying, how many lucid dreams do you think we're going to get on this study? And I was like, maybe none. Yeah, maybe we'll just spend the week helping people relax. Maybe they won't be able to sleep at all. The nightmares will be so bad. Anyway, in the end, it was quite the opposite. I realized that when you get a group together, all of whom are not in the same boat, when no one's in the same boat, but we can be in the same storm. And those who know trauma know that storm. And there was something about that group being together in the same storm. Many of them were veterans. Many of them were people with childhood sexual abuse. Many people had complex post-traumatic stress disorder, not just single event PTSD. And so I had a week with them to teach them lucid dreaming. But everyone had the same dream plan, which is your intention where you decide what to do in your first or next lucid dream. And it was to face and embrace an aspect of their fear, trauma, or anxiety. So some people were becoming lucid and calling out, anxiety, come to me. And then whatever appeared, they were embracing and showing love. Other people were becoming lucid in recurring nightmares about being back in war zones. But in their lucid state, they knew, wait, I'm not really back in Iraq. I'm just dreaming I'm back in Iraq. Nothing can hurt me. And they could either turn the bullets into flowers, as one person once did when they were in a gunfight, or another person, even more kind of, not advanced, but even more beneficial, was they just let the bullets come. They knew, wait, this is just a dream. Nothing can hurt me. So they had these big experiences. And at the beginning of the week, we were checking their PTSD score using the DSM-5 self-report model for any medical people listening. It's basically the standard where you check people's PTSD levels. And the score was high. The average was way above the threshold. So then we did a 4-week follow-up study because we thought maybe it's just a flash in the pan, these crazy results we've got. And when we did the 4-week follow-up, the PTSD score on average had dropped 1 point below. So we had this thing that had lasted for a month. And the results were kind of, they were believable, but they were kind of crazy results. So we actually struggled to get it published. And when we approached certain journals to get it published, they didn't dispute the results, but they just said, yeah, it's not for us.
Why?
Because the study had never been done before. It's kind of insane. There's no medicine that can reduce PTSD scores the way lucid dreaming did. So no wonder they didn't touch it. But the scientific establishment did hear about the results, even though we weren't published. So we got funding to do the same study again, but this time 100-person randomized control study, which is like the gold standard, right? Because the first one was just a pilot. And once we completed the 100-person randomized control and crucially got similar results, then suddenly people wanted to publish it. So we did manage to get it published in the Journal of Traumatology in June 2023. So people can Google that, they can see the study, and the results for the 100-person randomized control are coming out in a few months.
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so we can say without doubt now, lucid dreaming is one of the most powerful interventions for post-traumatic stress disorder currently available. It's non-invasive, it's non-medical, it's non-addictive, it's free. You do it in your sleep. It's fun. You know, it almost sounds too good to be true. There is a lot of effort. You need to, like, you know, all those things I said, the self-hypnosis, the meditations, the waking up at certain points in the night, but it's well worth it.
How many times do you have to wake up in the night?
So on the lucid dreaming retreats I do, people have an option to kind of sleep in their room. Let's say we go to bed at 10:30 or something like that. You can either just sleep all the way through in your room, or from 10:30 to 3:30, you sleep in your room. Then at 3:30, you wake up and you enter the sacred sleeping area where people have bed number 2. And there's me as your human alarm clock. And I drop you back into sleep. And then 90 minutes later, I wake you, drop you back into sleep. We do that 4 times a night. Now, I'm not saying we do that for 4 nights straight for 4 times a night.
I'd be very grumpy the
Yeah,
next day.
so we don't do, but you get loads of sleep because the next day we have napping time.
Although I'm now thinking, like, because my boyfriend snores, I'm like, can I use that as my way
He's
to
your
start
natural lucid dreamer.
dreaming?
Perfect. Great. Yeah. So I wouldn't advise that. That's just what we do on these retreats. They're like lucid dreaming boot camp. You just do it for a short period to kind of taste the chocolate. And then you maybe do that once a week or something like that. So that's not a long-term thing. It's just when we're teaching the practice. Because if you fall asleep once and wake up once in the morning, you got 1 chance to get lucid. Some crazy guy wakes you up 4 times a night, you've just quadrupled your chances of success.
Right. And for people that, you know, are kind of fascinated about it, because I know some people say that they don't dream.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Which I find absolutely bizarre. But what's that about?
And it's just totally untrue. There's no way to stop the human brain from dreaming other than a heavy head injury or a stroke. And even then, within a couple of weeks, you'll start dreaming again.
Or can it be, can prescription drugs interfere?
Interfere with REM cycle, but won't stop you dreaming. If you stop someone dreaming, they move into psychosis. It was actually used as one of the tortures in Guantanamo Bay. They call it sleep torture. It wasn't actually sleep torture. They were allowing them to sleep, but they were timing their REM periods. And when they were about to go into dream, they were waking them up. Famously playing the really loud heavy metal music and the stuff that was in that movie, Men Who Stare at Goats. Because if you take someone's dreams from them, they move into psychosis very quickly. And of course, they will sign anything. Yes, I did do this, or yes, I am this. So no, you're definitely dreaming. Everyone dreams every night, as long as you're asleep. There's no way to stop the human brain from dreaming. The only thing is people don't remember it. And the thing is, if they've told themselves, I don't dream, that creates an internal memory block, so they won't remember their dreams. So often people just hearing this and then Googling it to check, oh yeah, guy's right, you really do dream every night. Suddenly they start remembering their dreams. Because it wasn't that they weren't dreaming, it was that they created a mental block that prevented them from remembering their dreams.
That's interesting. And the other thing, before we kind of wrap up, we touched on this, or you did at the beginning, and I wanted to circle back to it, was about the education system and how that plays a role in stopping people from lucid dreaming. What?
This is totally unscientific now, right? This is just my kind of opinion. Fine. But if you look at a child who's playing all day, they're constantly in a right brain dominance.
Yes.
You know, they're also kind of hallucinating with their eyes open. Oh, there's my toys
they have
playing with each other.
They have no awareness that it's not actually happening.
Yeah. So no wonder when they dream, they have the same access to be aware of the fact that they're playing these characters.
Yeah.
How can I back that up with any evidence? Video gamers. Like hardcore video gamers who are playing between 4 and 6 hours of video gaming a day have loads of spontaneous lucid dreams because they're spending a large amount of their day inhabiting an avatar, playing a game, but knowing that they're really here, but they're inhabiting an avatar. Just like lucid dreaming. You see yourself in the dream, but you know that you're dreaming yourself in the dream. So unfortunately for any parents watching, or adults, video gaming is actually really good for lucid dreaming. However, they also did another...
has other consequences for the rest.
They did another study, though, on children. They found not just video gaming increased levels of lucidity in both kids and adults, but in children, especially reading fiction, increased levels of lucid dreaming. Because if the child is spending, 3 hours a day reading Harry Potter and embodying the characters, doing their voices, immersed in that world, they're more likely to dream in a similar way. So that's a more healthy version, I think.
Because I'm particularly fascinated with creativity as a subject. And dreams obviously are just very creative.
So creative.
How can we use dreams to access more of our creativity?
Oh, I am going to answer that. And I didn't answer your question about the education system.
Oh, yeah.
So kids are imagining all the time. What happens when we put them into full-time education? We move from the right brain dominance of childhood to the left brain dominance of learning and adulthood.
And more linear ways of thinking.
And again, kids I've seen who go to like Steiner schools and stuff like that, they seem to keep that lucid dream ability way more. There are a lot more of the 1 in 100s who went to Steiner schools and who go to mainstream schools. So again, that supports this theory that I have. Yeah. And your question about creativity. There's a lovely moment that I sometimes have where people go like, they might say they're not creative to me. We're having a conversation, I'm not creative, I'm not artistic. I say, tell me a dream. Literally tell me any dream you had, the most boring one. I had this really boring dream. I was walking down the street in London. Okay, you designed the costumes for that. You did the lighting. You were playing every person on the street. You were the concrete. You were the person walking down. You tell me you're not creative? Any dream reveals the infinite creativity of the human mind. And a great way to access our creativity is to look at our dreams because it's like a biofeedback mechanism. It's a two-way form of communication. People often say, and this happens a lot, this happens about once a month, I don't write down my dreams, they're really boring. And I'm like, dude, your dreams are so boring because you don't write them down. Like, again, think of that internal script writer. If no one's in the audience, if no one's reviewing the play,
write another play.
Yeah, he's going to write really boring plays. But if suddenly you're in there in the audience, the script writer is going to be like, oh, wow, okay, I've got an audience, showtime. Daddy issues, sexuality stuff, stuff from all this stuff. So if you want big themes in your dreams, if you want to have like really kind of these big creative dreams that maybe your friends hear that you have and they think, I wish I had dreams like Caggie has, then start writing down your dreams. Let the dreamer know you're listening. Let the dreamer know that you're in an active relationship with the dreamer. If you let your dreamer know that, your dreams will respond. And also there's interesting studies. They show that people who ingest more complex narratives have more complex dreams. So basically, if you go to a theater a lot, or you watch a lot of cinema, or you read a lot of fiction novels, your dreamer kind of learns narrative devices. You ever had it where right at the end of the dream, you like find out who the murderer is? And you think, wow, my dream was so cool. It kind of timed it just before the alarm clock. Oh, I found out who the murderer was. You want more dreams like that? Ingest more narratives like that.
Yeah, so be aware of the sort of content that you're consuming.
Yeah, same with horror movies, dude. Like people watching horror movies or true crime. Really weird.
I watch quite a lot of true crime. I don't really have any...
Oh, okay. There's an interesting thing because people are often like, oh, I never watch horror movies before bed. I don't want it to go in my dreams. But I have listened to a podcast about this terrible murderer. But because it was from the 1800s, it's like, okay. And, it won't affect me. I don't know, man. I wouldn't want to listen to like really like hardcore true crime before bed unless I was ready for a nightmare in which I could get lucid in. So maybe there's a technique there.
Yeah. I wanted to also share, last night, I think because I knew I was having this interview, I was like quite aware of what I was going to dream or trying to be. And I had something that I never had before, which was that, because I often, when I'm like struggling to make a decision about something, I ask my dream. So I'm like, okay, please tell me what I need to do, like help me with the decision. And often it tells me something that I don't want to hear, and then I don't listen to it. But last night I was like, okay, I wanted it to tell me something. And I've never had this, but it was like I could see someone trying to write.
Wow.
And it was like writing like a name and then numbers. And I was like, okay, I think I can read, but it was like a child trying to write, and I was like, I can't really understand what you're saying, but I remember bits of it, and I'm like, wow, that was wild.
You are so primed for lucid dreaming. Like if you start doing some of the like direct techniques, you're going to get lucid.
I'm all over this. After this, I'm definitely gonna be taking you up on like, okay, what is my practice going to be?
Cool. So the technique you did yesterday is called dream incubation. This is where you kind of use the creativity of the dream mind to answer a question. And you can use either the dream or you can use the hypnagogic state. You know, that kind of dozy state I talked about. You know, the two most famous people, Dali used to kind of have these afternoon naps where he would lie on the chaise longue and he would hold a silver spoon in his hand, balancing on the edge of a champagne glass. It's like this over the bed. And when he moved from the drowsy hypnagogic into the sleep paralysis of dream, he would drop the spoon, smash the glass and wake him up. And he would then draw what he was seeing in that in-between state. Wow. And that led to his paintings. Of course, the dude like had quite a lot of opium as well. So I think it's a bit of give and take, right?
That is so fascinating.
Yeah. And the other person was Edison, the guy who invented the commercially available light bulb. Yeah. He claimed that, he claimed that he found that in the hypnagogic, but what he would do was he would sit on an armchair holding metal ball bearings. And he'd be in the armchair like that and then drift into the hypnagogic, where it's all these creative things, seeing the blueprints for his ideas. And then when he slipped into full sleep, which he wasn't interested in, weirdly, he wasn't a lucid dreamer, he would drop the ball bearings and that'd wake him up and he'd jot down his things. And apparently that's how he came up with the light bulb.
I love this.
Yeah. So even if it's not full dream, you can work with the hypnagogic, you can work with non-lucid dreams as you were working with last night, and you can work with lucid dreams. And I wouldn't say lucid dreaming is better than any other form of dreaming.
Yeah.
You know, even if you get lucid every night of the week, still 95% of your dream experience will be non-lucid, even if you're lucid every night, because that's based on 8-hour cycle, 5 dream periods a night, multiple dreams each dream period. So we don't want to think that like, oh, lucid dreams are the best and non-lucid dreams are a waste of time, because then we're like rejecting 95% of our experience. We want to use all aspects of sleep and dream for our spiritual development.
And the final thing I wanted to ask you about is dreams that are very common dreams that people have that they're flying, or that I have one where I'm like almost flying, and often I have a plastic bag.
Like a parachute thing. Flying. Amazing.
And then what happens is it's like I realize I'm flying, but then when I stop believing that I can fly, I start dropping, and then I'm like, believe me.
That's such a good example.
I've never told anyone that. Don't know why, but it just sounds ridiculous. Okay. So do it with me like with a Sainsbury's bag.
This is so cool. So I hear people's flying dreams a lot. And usually in workshops, you might see me on other videos say this. I say, oh, there's 3 main types of flyer. There's the Superman flyer. There's the swim flyer. People who kind of swim through the air. Yeah. And there's the jumpers. People who kind of get gravity and jump. Yeah. I'm now going to add a 4th category, which is the Sainsbury's shopping bag parachute flyer, which is going to be your...
It's not specifically Sainsbury's, but it is a plastic bag.
There are other supermarkets available. Okay, I see.
Guys, you can use whatever plastic bag you have.
in the Buddhist tradition,
Yeah.
there isn't actually a lot of dream interpretation in Buddhism. It's mainly about becoming lucid, and then you can interpret the dream while you're in it, right? But there is a little bit of dream interpretation. And one of the main things they say is flying dreams are indicative of someone with a lot of chi. Like your prana, your chi, your inner life force is going up. So flying dreams are said to be very positive. So that's one amazing thing. The other thing is, isn't it cool how when you had a moment of doubt, you stop flying? What a metaphor for life.
What a metaphor.
Where we're flying, then we have a moment of doubt, and it's like, believe, 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 right?
Yeah.
Have you ever had the teeth falling out one? That's a really
Yes,
common
but
one.
not that common. But yeah, I have had it.
Okay. I'm glad it's not that common for you, because it's often, I mean, these dream workshops, I was recently counting up how many countries I had taught in. And it's just under, it's like 29 countries. And I realized everywhere from like Monaco to Mexico to Zimbabwe to Canada, all these places.
Same dreams.
Same themes.
Same themes.
Yeah, same themes, not same dreams. And the teeth falling out one is pretty universal. And actually, I had it myself recently. I was like, whoa, like I never have those really kind of normal dreams like that. But there was something going on in my life. I knew exactly what it's about.
What is it usually
The
about?
teeth falling out, again, you can never interpret someone's dream. It's so personal to them. But there are certain dreams where the themes are so universal, they become almost archetypal. So you're tapping into some kind of archetypal energy, transpersonal, not just personal. If I were to take your teeth from you, many things would be limited. Your ability to eat, to feed yourself, to gain nourishment, and your ability to fight. Now, we don't think this, but when we were monkeys don't punch, they bite. Well, they might punch, but biting. So losing your dreams of losing your teeth are losing your ability to protect yourself and losing your ability to feed yourself. So I was going through something, that absolutely was challenging my ability to protect myself emotionally. And I had this dream that my teeth were falling out. Wow. So I was like, oh God, well, I've had the classic dream. This is so cool. So again, I wrote it down to discharge it from my system. I then made a dream plan that in my next lucid dream, I want to call out and ask, not actually ask why I had that dream, because I know why I had the dream, but make a dream plan to deal with that situation that I'm still kind of going through in life.
And what is the third most common, if there is a third most common?
Flying ones, teeth falling out. Oh, naked in public. Probably the classic one of like people being naked in public, which is about exposure.
I've never had that.
Again, great. It's
But I do have it about and this is I used to do music and I would perform.
Yeah.
But I had really bad performance anxiety, and I still have these dreams that I'm supposed to perform and I'm not prepared. Kind of, I guess, like when people, and I often have it when I'm at university or something and I realise
before the exam.
Yeah, that I've never gone to a single class of like one of my subjects, and there's no way that I'm going to pass it.
That's pretty common, yeah. In fact, and in my new book, one of the case studies is a woman who worked specifically with stage fright through her lucid dreams. So she used to be a singer, and then about 13 years ago, she just developed this thing. She just couldn't. She just incredibly nervous to sing in public, and couldn't shift it. So she made this dream plan that in her next lucid dream, she wants to basically practice singing in public in the dream, knowing that what you do in the lucid dream creates these neural pathways that affect your waking state. So she becomes lucid, and she's in a pub, and she thinks, actually, this is a perfect place. So in the lucid dream, she starts singing. And then she starts to go up to each of the people in the pub and like sing like really close in their face, like really joyful with abandon. And she said it felt so good. And she woke up and she's like buzzing with excitement. And then a couple of weeks later, one of the like WhatsApp group things from her school put out this call. Would any of the parents be willing to sing in the Christmas thing that was coming up? And she signed up to do it. And she said there's just no residual nerves. Like she feels totally prepared to do it. She's totally ready to do it and is excited to do it. And since then has been practicing by singing in public. So like 13 years of stage fright. She had one big lucid dream and now she can sing in public again.
So you can really use this for anything.
Yeah. I mean, people have used it for nicotine addiction, sports performance stuff. Oh, an amazing, again, in the new book. It's actually a second edition of my first book, Dreams of Awakening, that comes out in summer. And this guy, Matt Humphreys, did amazing work with depression. He had like 15 years of treatment-resistant depression. And he became lucid. And in the lucid dream, he asked, show me the source of my depression, which any therapists know is really the core. If you can find what's called the core wound or the original wound, you've got a very good job unraveling the trauma there. So he called out, what's the source of my depression? and his grandmother appeared. And his grandma appears, and he was like, what's my grandma got to do with my depression? And then in the dream, he had the light bulb moment. He was like, oh my God, the guilt. So his grandma died when he was 10 years old of Alzheimer's. And he said he just never wanted to visit her. The care home was smelly and he didn't know what to say to her. And it was kind of scary that she couldn't remember who he was. So he just never went. And after she died, he remembered feeling really guilty and like not being able to grieve properly, not being able to let it go. And he'd never really connected that was the source of it all. But he realized, it was actually a few years later that everything started happening. So in the dream, he has this light bulb moment. Then he confirms it in the dream, says, wait, is this the source of my depression? Is it about the guilt about his grandma's name? And then as he did that, his grandma, who in the lucid dream was all like with Alzheimer's, all like shaking, went and became healthy again, which he thought, and I totally agree, was like the dream saying, yes, like you've got it. So then in the dream, he hugs her and then everything dissolves into light and he wakes up. And within a couple of weeks, he was off his meds, he was out of therapy. And then 2 years later, he emailed me because on a podcast, he had heard me say, oh, we shouldn't jump to any conclusions about lucid dream healing. So he said, I wanted to wait 2 years so you can put it in your next book and say 2 years he's been without depression.
That's amazing.
And yeah, 2 years. So he had like 15 years of depression and then one lucid dream. He was able to then move off his meds and out of therapy. And recently I got an email from his dad saying that he's reading the book. He'd seen me talk about Matt in a thing I'd done on YouTube. And he confirmed, he said, yeah, Matt's married now. He's got a stable job. Everything changed 2 years ago after that lucid dream.
That's fantastic.
So amazing stuff you can do with this.
Oh, I love this so much. I think this is going to be so helpful for our listeners.
Yeah,
so
I think it is.
You.
It's helpful. It's free. You do it yourself. There's no guru to worship. There's no cult to be part of. There's no medicine you take. Yeah. You learn these techniques, whether from me or someone else or free off the internet. You do them and you gain access to the most powerful healing modality, one of the most powerful healing modalities in existence. And you do it in bed. That's cool.
That is cool. Charlie, thank you so much.
Thank you. What a fun chat.
What a fun chat. I could talk to you all day, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
You know, it's interesting after listening back to this conversation because I have just started doing hypnosis. And when you are being hypnotized, you fall into this sort of slight dreamlike state when you're in between. And I almost find myself kind of semi-nodding off sometimes. And I guess what Charlie's talking about is the power of that sort of transitional period and how we can use it and how it's a really potent time for, you know, intentions of what we want our dreams to answer or what we want them to tell us. And so, yeah, I just found this really, really quite a funny conversation. I hope you enjoyed my story about my dreams and the flying plastic bag. It sounds so ridiculous. But yeah, if you did enjoy this, I would love it if you could share it with a friend you think might find it useful, or share it on social media, because I always love seeing that and it helps us get discovered by more like-minded people. And if you don't follow the show already, please, please, please hit the follow button, because that helps us get more amazing guests like Charlie and allows us to expand and reach new people. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening, and remember, you are not alone. Goodbye.